Here was the scene this morning across Winter Park, Colorado, with very heavy snow, blizzard-like conditions, and high winds approaching almost to 75 miles an hour. Closed many mountain passes across this region, and we still have several more hours to contend with more heavy snow across portions of Rabbit Ears Pass until about 11 o'clock this evening. Still expecting more heavy snow across this area. And back here towards the Front Range, yes, intense winds still of upwards to 60, 65, maybe even approaching 70 miles an hour before this snow starts to wind down and to diminish as we head into the overnight hours. But for the rest of the country, we've got more heavy snow across these areas of the Cascades, upwards to 3,500 elevation feet and higher. And then once you more heavy snow back into portions of Utah, of course, that sneaks into Colorado. And then there's the higher winds across the Front Range through Santa Fe, and that actually gets into the Texas Panhandle. Remember all the heavier rain that fell in southeast Texas a couple of days ago? That went across the I-10 corridor. And then yesterday, Tallahassee just got crushed with very intense heavy rain, upwards to almost 6 to 8 inches in and around that area. Here's what's left over from that system. Now that system's coming up the eastern seaboard, and with a little bit of a dip in the jet stream, that brings more heavy snow across eastern portions of Canada. That's going to sneak into Vermont and New Hampshire and back into Maine with renewed winter storm warnings starting tonight into the day tomorrow. So here's the overall jet stream, what we're looking at. Here's a little bit of a dip. You got some colder air intrusion coming in out of Canada. That's going to align with the low pressure center off the coast. That is going to formulate your snowstorm up here in the portions of New England. At the same time, we're going to have a drastic warm up all throughout the week with this ridge of high pressure coming in from the southwest flow. And as the jet stream lifts, it's going to bring a lot of warm air into a good part of the country, especially by the time we head into, say, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday timeframe. But here's the setup for the winds right now. So we're still getting some pretty significant winds. You can look at the chart here. This is the overall wind gust right now, what we're looking at here. Here's the chart at the bottom of the screen. Yes, those areas in purple are showing 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts, but those areas in yellow, yeah, that's upwards to over 60, maybe 70 mile per hour wind gust at times. And that's why they've got those high wind warnings in place. So if you are in the market for a weather station, I definitely highly recommend the Tempest from Weatherflow. It's the one I personally have myself for the last 3 years. I think it's the best one on the market. It's a complete 5-in-1 system. The glory about it is it only takes like 10 minutes to set up because it's all solar. It's kind of a set it and forget it. So they do have an app that the whole family can download, and they have a desktop version, which now 60,000 people are part of the Tempest community. If you'd like to purchase one of these for yourself, I do have a discount code. You can follow the link below and use this code here, PALWeather10, for 10% off and free shipping. So I'll have this link in the description below. So if you'd like to order one for yourself, and it makes a great gift for the holidays. I know Christmas is only 3 weeks away. So here's the precipitation for the next 48 hours. We've got the little pressure that's still dumping some, moderate rain across portions of Florida. That's going to be coming up the eastern seaboard. But notice of all the heavier rain that's going to be inundating the northeast. And notice these areas in pink. That's most of this is going to be very intense, heavy snows. We've got the northwest flow. I showed you the little bit of a dip in the jet stream. So yeah, you can't kind of rule out some of this area could be sporadic snow showers across these regions in Illinois, portions of Indiana, and maybe even portions Ohio and back into Michigan over the next 48 hours. And of course, there's the heavier rain at the lower elevations, and then all snow at the higher elevations. We're expecting 2 to 3 feet of heavy snow across that region. But here's the heavy snow for the northeast, and this system has been pretty consistent, guys. I mean, for several days now, the data and now the short range models are really starting to pick up on it. Intense snow band coming in, going to meet that low pressure off the East Coast. That's going to wrap around and dump some pretty intense snows across Vermont and New Hampshire, and especially back into Maine. If we kind of zoom in to this snowstorm, I think it starts tonight and it really cranks up in the overnight hours, especially kind of all day tomorrow. But this is your short range guidance, kind of printing out about a 5-inch swath across portions up here towards Caribou. Once you get down to Bangor, about 8 inches. But look at the bullseye as you head towards in the interior regions. Yes, the data has been pretty consistent with this, with the swath of 18 to possibly 24 inches of very heavy snow. But notice just to the south, you get closer to the coast there, down towards Portland, only about 1 inch of snow. So it's going to be, you know, very intense snow for many, but little next to none for some of the rest of you. But there towards Montreal, yeah, you could be picking up possibly a foot of snow. Even up here towards Quebec, about 5 inches of snow expected over the next 24 to 36 hours. And here's your winter storm impacts from that particular snowstorm. We've got the minor impacts highlighted in yellow. We've got the moderate impacts highlighted in this orange area. And that likely goes through Monday night time frame. But here's the setup for the middle of the week. So what we're looking at here is the overall 500 millibar, and kind of look where the ridge is. And I don't need to tell you, this area in red, that is more or less heat for December standards. Much of the country is going to be warming up in a big way, while much of the East Coast is still going to be on the colder side. And I think that lasts for, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this upcoming week. But we do have relief in sight with this trough building out here towards coming off the Aleutian Islands. That will be finally moving in after the big warm up, but that will likely happen until sometime on Friday heading into Saturday time frame. So moving forward, look at that, folks. You know, if we, you know, out this ridge is really going to be elevating these temperatures. And here's some temperatures, could be talking about record highs. That's the last thing you want to hear in December, but it's exactly probably what's going to happen by the time we hit the middle of next week. Look at that warm surge, folks. I mean, all the way in the middle of the country. Yes, that's not a misprint. We're talking 60s for highs in South Dakota, all the way almost to the Canadian border, almost 56 degrees. That is plenty warm for December the 6th standards, as this ridge will be moving through, and that warmth will be shifting over. But you can see where the colder pocket is, right? Where that snow is going to be falling. These are high temperatures up there in Maine. You're not going to get out of the 20s under that snowpack. So you're still going to be feeling a lot like winter for, you know, midweek, you know, comes to fruition. But yeah, look at the surface map, folks. By the time we head into that Wednesday, Thursday time frame, as the ridge moves in into a good part of the country, we've got about 2 to 3 day window where almost little next to nothing happens, with very warm air and engulfing much of the country by then, waiting for our next storm system that will start to enter the picture in the Pacific Northwest. So you can see the jet stream by then, right? Here's the overall jet stream with that lift going all the way to Canada. That's a pretty intense warm surge, but there's the dip. This is the jet stream by Thursday. There's that little bit of a dip already starting to enter into portions of the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be a renewed shot of colder air and will likely set the stage for more snow across this region, and then unfortunately probably set the stage for some severe weather coming up for next weekend towards the southeast. So let's walk you through the details and how all this is going to play out. Here's the overall temperatures on the kind of the ensemble front by the time we hit Friday, and Friday could be also a pretty warm day. Well, you're looking at relief in sight. So there's the trough coming in from the Pacific Northwest. That's going to bring in a renewed snow threat across this region. And then likely as you warm up back into Colorado, you're going to have a cold blast come through with more snow likely by the time we go into that Friday, Saturday time frame. But out ahead of it, look at the warm surge all the way through the southern and central plains and up through the Great Lakes. And these temperatures are really going to heat up with this ridge going to be moving across from west to east kind of all week long. And as it does, it's going to be bringing a renewed storm threat to the south and a renewed snow threat from the northwest. So here's where the ensembles are right now for Saturday. This upcoming weekend, we could be looking at a renewed snows across this region through Wyoming, back into Colorado again, portions of getting into Nebraska, back into Kansas. And yes, that could include portions of the Texas Panhandle, while most of the activity looks to again kind of set up east of the east of I-35 here, and the heavier rains would likely shift into East Texas, into Louisiana, and then likely shift into Arkansas, into portions of Illinois by then within that warm sector. But there's the dip in the jet stream, and the concern right now would be we're kind of looking at possibly going into Saturday. This could lead into Saturday night. But this is a pretty significant dip in the jet stream. This is typically where you would see severe weather this time of year. So we're watching the trends on the data. But right now, within that warm sector, we're likely going to be looking at from some severe storms across this region, because you're going to have the kind of a similar setup. You're going to have a warm front back by then, kind of lifting back up. So you elevate these temperatures. These are low temperatures. By the time we get into Saturday morning time frame, this is December the 9th. Yeah, we're talking back into almost near 70 degrees again for lows. This is lows. These are not highs. So yes, that is plenty warm for December. And that's the reason with that dip in the upper level winds that we could be spelling trouble with severe storms across this region. But notice the cold blast that will be coming in from the northwest. These are cold temperatures, renewed threat of 20s, widespread 20s back across this region. That shifts into New Mexico and eventually gets in towards the Amarillo region, as this will be diving in, replacing all that heat with that more like December-like weather, what it's supposed to feel like this time of year. But yes, there is the severe weather front. So this is what some of the data is showing right now as we head into that Saturday, Sunday time frame. And this is typically where you would see severe weather this time of year across the Dixie Alley region. So we've got that concern kind of all week long that will be kind of taking it, keeping an eye out for you across that region. But here's the overall ensembles on the north side, the colder side from that low pressure center. Yes, likely not out of the question. Could bring some more snow across the Texas Panhandle. Maybe what's left over from the colder air as it starts to come in from that northwest flow. Maybe some sporadic snow showers across Illinois, maybe even possibly Indiana, going into portions of Ohio, with the heavier rain shifting back into the southeast again, and likely heading back into Florida. And this would come up the coast again, right? So this would likely be on Sunday, potentially. These are overall ensembles. Now we're getting a little bit far out because it's about 7 to 8 days, but it kind of shows you the trend on where that low pressure will be by the time we get there, with some possibly sporadic snow showers across this region into portions of the mid-Atlantic and back into the northeast again. But there's the lows, because though there is a pretty good cold shot on the backside, it's going to be warming up for a good part of the week. But once we hit that cold blast on Friday, heading into Saturday, going into Sunday, by the time we hit Monday, there are your low temperatures. So now everybody starts to get into the action of the colder air. It's going to start feeling a lot more like December, what it's typically supposed to feel like this time of year, with the colder intrusion all the way down into the coast. We've got widespread 30s for lows all the way down into the southeast. So we won't be talking about severe storms by then. We'll be talking about nice, colder December type weather. And then, of course, snow up further north. But here's the overall ensembles and where the rain is going to be potentially over the next 7 to 8 days. So we've got that system coming in from the Pacific Northwest. You got the dry slot with the warmer air coming off the southwest flow. You got the renewed threat with the heavier rain once it shifts into the east side of the I-35 corridor, and then the heavier rains, the heavier pockets of precipitation for the week ahead would likely be over Illinois, Indiana, back in Ohio, and back into portions of West Virginia. But look at all the heavier precipitation as we get in towards the mid-Atlantic, and especially up here into the Northeast over the next 7 to 8 days. So here's the ensemble breakdown on the GFS ensembles right now where that snowstorm would be. So we have the snowstorm continuing for the next Sunday and Monday time frame. Then we have a renewed threat will come in on the backside for next Saturday, Sunday, heading into Monday time frame. And yes, some of this snow could sneak all the way down into the Texas, western Oklahoma panhandle. The Canadian guidance is kind of implying the same thing that the GFS ensembles are, and as well as the European. So most of the 3 global ensemble guidances kind of show this snowstorm unfold over the next 7 days, laying a pocket of heavier snows across the Intermountain West that might sneak down into the Texas panhandle and then shift across and then pick back up again once you hit up here towards portions of the Great Lakes and into the Northeast and back into New England by the time we head into next weekend again. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.